There's a voice inside the mind that never stops. It whispers doubts, replays conversations, and crafts scenarios that may never happen. At first, it feels like a safety net, a way to prepare for anything. But soon, the mind becomes a tangled web of what-ifs and should-haves, trapping its owner in a loop of endless thinking. It's a silent enemy, disguised as logic and disguised as preparation. But is it really helping, or is it just feeding the cycle of uncertainty? Hours go by, lost in mental gymnastics, rehearsing words that were never said, regretting moments that cannot be undone. The body sits still, yet the mind runs marathons, exhausted from a race with no finish line. Overthinking isn't just draining, it's paralyzing. It steals presence, turning real-life moments into foggy backgrounds, while the mind chases illusions. And yet, it convinces its prisoner that thinking more will solve the very problems it creates. But what if it's all a trap? The real problem isn't just the thinking, it's the illusion of control. The belief that if one just analyzes hard enough, clarity will appear like a prize at the end of a puzzle. But instead of clarity, overthinking breeds confusion. Instead of solutions, it creates stress. And before one realizes it, the mind isn't serving them, they're serving the mind. But what if there was a way to break free? What if the constant mental chatter wasn't the truth, but just noise? The mind is never silent. From the moment someone wakes up to the final moments before sleep, thoughts collide, competing for attention. They appear uninvited, questions about the past, worries about the future, endless internal dialogues. This mental noise seems harmless at first, but over time, it becomes an invisible weight, draining energy without warning. And the more one tries to control it, the stronger it grows, like a river overflowing when forced into a narrow path. In the middle of this storm of thoughts, reality starts to blur. A friend's words, the gentle morning breeze, the taste of coffee, everything fades into the background while the mind drifts away, replaying past mistakes or anticipating problems that may never come. The body may be present, but attention has already been hijacked, lost in a never-ending stream of doubts and worries. When this noise becomes the soundtrack of life, the things that truly matter begin to slip away unnoticed. But here's the secret. Most of these thoughts aren't useful. They're just echoes of old fears, reflections of insecurities, and automatic patterns that have never been questioned. What if there was a way to observe this noise without being consumed by it? What if, instead of fighting thoughts, there was a way to calm the inner chaos? The first step toward freedom begins with realizing that not every thought deserves to be followed. People overthink because they crave certainty. They believe that if they analyze a situation long enough, the perfect answer will emerge, and every possible mistake will be avoided. But the mind is tricky. It doesn't work that way. Instead of clarity, overthinking breeds hesitation. Instead of solutions, it creates more problems. The harder someone tries to control every outcome, the more they feel like they're losing control. The more they search for certainty, the more uncertain they become. It's like standing at a crossroads, staring at every possible path, calculating risks, predicting failures. But instead of choosing a direction, they remain frozen, paralyzed by their own thoughts. Hours pass, days even, and still, no decision feels right. What if something goes wrong? What if they regret it later? The truth is, no amount of mental analysis can eliminate uncertainty. Life will always have unknowns, and the obsession with trying to predict everything only steals the ability to truly live. And yet the illusion persists, this idea that thinking more equals solving more. But the mind is like quicksand. The harder one struggles, the deeper they sink. Real control isn't found in endless analysis. It's found in surrendering to the flow of life. The question is, how does one let go of the need for absolute certainty and embrace the unknown without fear? Overthinking turns life into a constant debate, every decision dissected, every action second-guessed. It whispers doubts, making people question if they're saying the right thing, doing enough, or living the way they should. But here's the irony. The more someone overthinks their choices, the further they drift from who they truly are. Authenticity gets buried under layers of hesitation, shaped by fear of judgment and the need for approval. And in trying to be everything for everyone, They forget to be themselves. Real freedom begins when people stop filtering their every move through the lens of worry. It's in those unscripted moments, the laughter that isn't rehearsed, the words that flow without fear, the decisions made from instinct instead of doubt, that life feels real. But overthinking keeps them stuck in a mental maze where every path is questioned and no step ever feels good enough. The mind keeps whispering, "What if this is a mistake?" But the bigger mistake is never taking a step at all. The truth is, clarity doesn't come from endless thinking. It comes from action. Living authentically means embracing imperfection, trusting intuition, and letting go of the need to overanalyze every detail. The world doesn't need another person trapped in their own head. It needs people bold enough to be real. But how does one break free from years of conditioned overthinking and step into a life that feels true? Breaking free from overthinking isn't about shutting off the mind. It's about changing the relationship with thoughts. Instead of fighting them, one can learn to observe them like passing clouds, acknowledging their presence without getting swept away. Mindfulness meditation is a powerful tool for this. By focusing on the breath, the body, or even the sounds in the environment, the mind slowly learns to detach from its own noise. The more one practices, the easier it becomes to separate useful thoughts from the ones that only create stress. Another powerful technique is journaling. Thoughts tend to feel overwhelming when they stay locked in the mind, bouncing around with no direction. But when they're put on paper, they lose their grip. Writing is like opening a pressure valve. Suddenly, what felt chaotic starts to make sense. Patterns emerge, unnecessary worries become obvious, and clarity begins to take shape. The act of writing isn't just about organizing thoughts. It's about freeing the mind from carrying everything at once. But the fastest way to silence overthinking? Engagement in the present moment. When someone is fully immersed in something they love, whether it's music, movement, or creative expression, overthinking fades into the background. The mind stops obsessing over the past or future because it's too busy being here now. The key isn't to force thoughts to stop. It's to fill life with enough presence and passion that overthinking naturally takes a back seat. But how does one fully embrace the present without the weight of old fears and future anxieties pulling them back? Life isn't happening in the endless loops of the mind. It's unfolding right now, in this very moment. But overthinking traps people in a place where the past haunts them and the future overwhelms them, leaving no room for the present. The truth is, the past is untouchable, and the future is unwritten. Holding on to them only fuels anxiety. The real power, the real freedom, lies in choosing to be fully present, where peace, joy, and clarity are always waiting. Letting go doesn't mean ignoring problems or pretending fears don't exist. It means understanding that not every thought deserves attention. It means realizing that overthinking won't create a perfect life. It only steals the one that's already here. The mind will always try to pull attention in 100 directions, but the heart knows where it belongs. Here, now. Every moment wasted in worry is a moment lost in living, and no one deserves to live as a prisoner of their own thoughts. The first step is awareness. The second is action. The mind will resist, whispering old fears and doubts, but those voices no longer hold power. Because now, there's a choice, to stop overthinking and start living. The question isn't, what if something goes wrong? The real question is, what if everything finally feels right? The answer is waiting, not in the mind, but in the life that's been waiting all along. Are you ready to embrace it?